and we're going to make a lot of money, and we're going to cut taxes for the people of this country. It'll take a little while before we do that, but we're going to be cutting taxes, and it's possible we'll do a complete tax cut, because I think the tariffs will be enough to cut all of the income tax. Now, we have a lot of debt that's been left to us, unfortunately, over many years. We'll take care of that, but the tariffs, if people only understood the tariffs, we're going to be giving people of this country a tremendous tax cut, and we're going to start with people making less than $200,000 a year.
Well, Trump continues to shock the media with his economic strategies. He recently floated the idea of significantly reducing or even eliminating the income tax for Americans. He suggested that tariff revenue could supplement the deficit left by dramatically reducing or even abolishing the income tax. However, we're constantly hearing from the legacy media that Trump's economic strategies are harmful to America, despite the overwhelming support he has in the polls and the many top financial leaders who support and guide his economic strategies. The fact is that numerous financial experts are buzzing with optimism about Trump's economic vision. He's negotiating trade deals and tariffs that put American jobs first. He's slashing financial regulations that have choked businesses for years. Less red tape means more growth, more jobs, and more money in your pocket. Amid the chaos stirred by doubting pundits and media voices, the promise of economic stability is becoming more real every single day under President Trump. But not everyone's happy about it. So why is all this panic in our media when the reality is the markets are stabilizing as Trump presents strength in negotiating with other nations? I mean, who's truly behind this doomsday outlook trying to push Americans into a narrative of fear? Well, of course, at one level, it's the relentless and feckless mainstream media, backed at another level by the interests of big banks that want to keep Americans afraid and resistant to change, precisely because the establishment has amassed so much power and wealth in the old globalist system. As Trump seeks to undo this rigged, crippling regulatory framework in a bid for financial freedom for all Americans, the media, in denial, continues its assault on sound economic principles. While the Trump administration seeks to hammer out beneficial trade deals, big banks cling to outdated ideologies that keep them rich at your expense. The left is terrified of progress. Think about that. The left is terrified of progress because the overregulated, government-controlled economy keeps them in power. They'll scream about risks and instability, but what they're really scared of is you, independent, thriving, and free. They're trying to reject the very policies that are making America great again. Joining me today is Chuck DeLauderante, who's both a patriot and financial expert, helping you to gain back control of your income and expenses to optimize your banking function and build multi-generational wealth. Chuck is a leader in helping working-class Americans use the exact same tactics and systems that the ultra-wealthy use to stay wealthy, avoid big banking schemes, and stay ahead of the economic fluctuations. So if you want to be liberating your finances in future, you guys have got to book a call with Chuck. Just click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen to secure your place in this rising liberation economy. Chuck, great to see you again, my friend. Welcome back.
Well, great, Dr. Steve. Really good to be back. And yeah, you really teed it up again well there. So, we're nearing 100 days, barely, I think, right? Close.
Yeah.
And there's been some amazing things happening. Now, maybe tariffs for the long term are not so great, but certainly we're course correcting. I mean, Trump, his thing, he's unorthodox according to the status quo, right? So whatever he's going to do is not going to be what everybody else has been doing, and the big banks, as you mentioned, the Fed and so forth, the international banks. And so we're in definitely challenging times, but now is the time for families to unify and for people of faith to unify and collaborate for the future. Building wealth, it's like it's like planting a tree that you want to get shade, right? When's the best time to plant a tree for shade? Well, it's today or 20 years ago, right? But we didn't do that 20 years ago. If you,
Right.
like me, when you were a little younger, maybe you didn't know all these things. Maybe you didn't have the financial wherewithal or you didn't have the coaching. And so we provide coaching, guidance, and a platform to build wealth without ever losing money. There's just a lot to it that we cover during that free discovery call that I put out there. And we work with people from all walks of life. And you mentioned, the working American, the person that's going to bring home a paycheck, or a small business owner. The America is built on small business
Right.
and is built on the the idea of free enterprise. Well, the big banks kind of get involved and the globalists get involved and they want to quash that down. We have government economy, government driven big bank, big federalist globalist economy. We have government education. We have
Right.
big corporations. What happens to the little guy and all that? And then
Right.
you have the business owner. You may have families, we work with families of modest income and we work with wealthy families as well. We're talking people that are really troubled about the inheritance or death tax when you get north of $20 million or more, and you're looking at paying a 40% inheritance tax on anything that goes past the ceiling. It breaks the back of family multi-generational wealth. We help prevent that. So that's what we're all about. And I think, you asked some questions about, why do the banks, why do they want to drive fear? Well, fear drives
Yeah.
people. What it does is atomizes people, right? They
Yeah.
want people to be in their own little cells, right? Think of it like a cubicle society. They don't want us collaborating and getting the strength of the individuals and like-minded individuals.
Yeah. That's brilliantly put. Yeah, because again, these same banks, the same legacy media, they were telling us over the last 4 years, this is the greatest economy in the world. Well, with Joe Scarborough, they were telling us this was the best Biden ever, and this was the best economy ever. And then here you have
Oh,
somebody who really seems to want to recalibrate the whole of the world economic order around the American worker, and they're flipping out. They're freaking out.
yeah.
I mean, how do we get to this point? How did we allow these globalist trade policies to hold back so much American prosperity? I'm curious, in particular, about the roles of institutions like big banks and their mouthpieces and legacy media. How they allow the sort of economic stranglehold to persist.
Well, you really have to have, and you mentioned a key word, you have to have an understanding of economics and how if you're Keynesian or if you go back to Adam Smith or if you're Austrian, all those have premises or preconceived, presuppositional thinking. So I think when you say, how did we get here? Well, take a look at what happened. The whole idea of a central bank or the mega central bank, the international central banking system of international settlements. Uh, the bigger it gets, the more control they want. They want a happy serf population that just gets enough not to make too much trouble, and then a few people control a lot. And that the central banking concept leads to that. Human nature is fallen, and we also have to have checks and balances. We forget that, when Big Papa, Big Mama is going to take care of us, and we think we're going to be taken care of instead of taking initiative and unifying again with family. Family wealth can be built, but it needs to have a system of thought. It needs to have family meetings. There needs to be a meeting of the minds. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're building wealth now as a younger person or you're in your mid 30s or 40s and you're using that 401k type approach and you're getting some match and then you wonder, how can I leverage that? We teach people how to leverage even a 401k or a traditional IRA and sometimes the Roth, but those are all government programs. You're really becoming a slave to the system. How do you break free from that? How do you pass your money through the banking system? I mean, we all need to be banked in the formal sense, but then creating a privatized banking system that can build wealth over time and tax protect that, because the income tax is the other. You mentioned that at the opening. I mean, it's an insidious depletion of family wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. When just as you're talking, I thought about, I forget the article I was reading, but this analyst had pointed out that what FDR and LBJ did, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter, just descriptive, not prescriptive, is they convinced the masses that building a great society would no longer, the hard work of building a great society would no longer be done by the citizens and by civic virtue and personal economic responsibility and the like. No, it's now going to be done by government programs, and even they started to incorporate corporations into that as well. So it's just like you said, just these colossal giants. They're the ones that are going to ultimately give us this great society, and not everyday Americans, not hardworking Americans who become economically literate and who invest and so forth. So we ended up, I think, inadvertently becoming dependent on these giants, big this, big ag, big pharma, big everything, right? We became dependent on them because we were sold this mythology that they're the ones who are going to be bringing in this great society.
You know, R.J. Rushdoony wrote on family, and I want to go back to family because that's really the core of how our country was built. It's really, I think, the way forward. And it's we've got to have a message of hope, and it's got to go beyond MAGA. It's got to go beyond the politics of the day, the two-party system. We've got to go back to the trenches. We've got to rebuild family in America and think about it's all starting businesses, working together, trusting one another. People of faith need to learn how to work better together. If you're a person of faith, but you're this little individual candle out there, you're going to be ineffective. You know, Rushdoony wrote about the family. He said there's the atomistic family. We're all going in different directions. And maybe there's the family of convenience where maybe we have, a birthday party or a wedding or baby shower or whatever. And we've got to move that to what he called the trustee family. That means we trust one another. We invest in one another. We're looking long term. Getting wealthy is a long term proposition. We are I think on the crest of great things. And I don't know that the Doge thing has met its goals yet. They're a little shy at this moment. I'm hoping that thing becomes a reality because we do need to cut costs. But we're talking about an ocean of debt, a governmental system that's going to push back and push back hard. And the globalists don't fight clean. And we got to get over that. We got to quit thinking everybody's going to be nice around the table. And so I think Trump gets that, obviously. C.S. Lewis, in his book, The Weight of Glory, wrote this. And I love this quote. He said, "We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered to us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea." And
Yeah.
that's a very British term, the holiday at sea. But that holiday at sea, that's where we want to be, Dr.
Yeah.
T.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
be at that
Amen.
holiday at sea, but we have this hopelessness. Hopelessness ain't going to get you there. It's going to
Right.
get you to the back of the envelope where you're going to be looking at yourself in the mirror saying, what happened here? How
Right.
come I can't get ahead?
Right. Oh, it's so beautifully put. Yeah. It's a great pivot here. I do want to talk about the hope here. What hope do Trump's economic reforms, from your vantage point, let's say they're ideally done? I mean, we're already seeing it: slashing regulations, renegotiating the trade deals, reducing taxes. What hope does that offer to everyday Americans, especially the next generation? How can these policies empower particularly families to build lasting wealth?
I think the answer there, you have to contrast the immediacy, the immediate effects of that or effects of it, and then thinking long term. So I don't know that everything that we're seeing right now, I think it's going to create jobs. I think it's going to, if we can get the tax cuts to stay in place and maybe even better, I think the average American can benefit by having more capital come into their household. And capital is king. I mean, cash flow is really king. And so
Right.
we have to be looking at ways. And if you build a small business, you don't have to have real estate to do cash flow. People get stuck on real estate. It's a great asset category, but it's only one of many. And so people need to think about preserving their capital. That's the cash that comes into their household. And you know
Mhm.
what? Some people that have immigrated to this country, and I coached baseball back in the day when my kids were younger, and I had this kid on my team. His family came from Taiwan, I think, and they just dominated the business that they got in because they
Yeah.
worked together, they lived together, and eventually they become, multi-generational, multi-family houses and everything else. But in the beginning, I remember I took him home one day, and there he was. The whole family was lined up out there to welcome him home from the
Oh,
baseball practice.
wow.
And it was powerful message to me. That stuck to me to this day,
Yeah.
and it just popped into my mind. I didn't really rethink that story, but it reminded me about how the glue of that, the fabric of family unity around a business that they wind up acquiring was a powerful message of wealth building. So I think back to your question, we're on the we're standing on the edge, looking out over the horizon. We're not going to get there by doing nothing. So I think
Right.
I would do this. Number one, we need to pray. We need to pray and trust the Lord for our wealth. It's Him who brings us wealth. And I know I'm going to be evangelistic here, but I hope that's okay. It's
That's
the
all
Lord
right. You
that gives us wealth. So we need to pray and trust the Lord. Number two, you got to rethink your thinking. Where are we, right? Your question is, are these programs, how can they help me? Well, if you can get more net revenue into your home and you can maybe make a little more and spend a little less, and then
yes.
make some smart moves with your money. Again, I'd love to talk with you as any of your listeners as well. And then thirdly, unify and collaborate. Unify in the family, collaborate with fellow and like-minded people, fellow believers if you're a Christian, and then finally act. You have to take action.
Mhm.
Smart action is good. And then lastly, don't give up. You can't give up. Tenacity used to be the fabric of our country. People who came here, back in the 30s and the 40s and even earlier than that, they had tenacity. We need to recapture the youthful vibrance. I
Yeah. The
mean, here I
vibrancy.
am. I'm
Right.
I'm in my 70s now, and I just feel like I'm getting started. I'm
Yeah.
having a great time. I
Yeah.
mean, I got grandkids here this week. We're out swimming in the pool. Then I'm on this interview, and I'm doing business here and there, and
Yeah.
I love it. So I think I would do that anyway because I'm just that kind of person. But I think back to your key point here, Trump, Doge, whatever's going on with all the tariffs and the cuts and the reformation, we need to eliminate, that Department of Education. I was so glad. I think we need to rethink our thinking about that too, because that's
Yes.
only brainwashing the future generations.
Yes.
I mean, you've
Yes.
been in education, so have I.
Yeah.
Taught different levels in college and so forth, and
Yeah.
I met some undergraduate students that their mindset was appalling. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what am I going to do with these kids? I mean, they give me answers that are right out of the globalist playbook.
Right, right, right. Well, that's all they got. That's what they got from the Department of Ed. The
Yeah,
late, the late not so great Department of Ed. That's right.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's a perfect pivot again to my final question to you. Is just all right. What practical action steps can our listeners take right now to just align just these amazing changes that are happening around us, align with those changes and begin securing their financial freedom. It just what you said sounds so beautiful. What can we do right now?
Yeah, I love it, and it's like a good sermon if there's no application at the end. So what? Who cares, right? You go home and say, "Well, that was nice, but it was very philosophical." So here's some practical steps. Number one, you've got to find a way to start saving back some capital to
Yeah,
build forward. Okay, so you've got to get a hold. You've got to do a family budget. We help people do that. We don't charge for it, but we urge you to take out every credit card statement, take out every utility bill. And most families, especially if you're younger and raising children, you really don't know what your expenses are. That's your first problem. That's fundamental. Okay. Anybody can do that, but not everybody does it.
right.
Secondly, if you can imagine, and I'm just going to postulate this idea, if you would like to find out about a way that you can earn uninterrupted compound interest on most of the money that's already going to flow through your life, if there was such a system out there, wouldn't you want to know about it? In other words, if there was a system where you would not expose yourself to loss, you
Mhm.
would actually always get gains and maybe more gains if you figured out how to better utilize that system. And you wouldn't need any new money, and we just reroute that money away from the mainstream banks, back to your banker question, and into a privatized banking system. Obviously, I'm giving a plug for what we do. But to
Right.
me, when I discovered this, I turned my life around, even
Yeah.
late in life. It caused me, and the originator of this is it's really called the infinite banking concept,
I was
R.
gonna say,
Nelson Nash.
infinity banking. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. R. Nelson Nash, he was a guy out of a Christian guy out of Alabama, out of Birmingham. He said, "You've got to rethink your thinking, and you've got to think long term." So our system does that. It is based on the model that Nash really had the epiphany about and created, if you will. And we work with very sound methods. I provide coaching. We have client meetings every quarter. We have investors. We have real estate people. We have Bitcoin people and crypto, and you name it. And
Awesome.
there's lots of innovative people out there, but you're not. I think the biggest thing is most of the family men that I've met, they feel like they're in this alone. You
Yeah,
got to get over that, man.
yeah.
You've got to join up with somebody. You've got to, and George MacDonald, he was a Scottish author and in a congregational minister, and he said this: obedience is the great opener of the eyes. The more we do, the more we will be able to do, the more we will be able to do, the more we learn, the
Oh,
more
I
we
love
will know. And one of the
it.
things we know is how to learn more.
Yes,
Contentment is the limited range of experience we have today and how
yes.
to move forward to getting more. So we're here to help people. A lot of the work I do is frankly almost ministry level. But I do have wealthy clients as well, and middle-aged people who do fairly well and need things like annuities for getting lifetime income. So we're pretty diverse, mostly in the insurance space and so forth. But um,
I love it.
the first time I was on, I had lovely conversations. We had lots of appointments that were made, and you mentioned in the notes. So I'll get that barcode to the team, and of course the website is liberationeconomy.com. That's a great
I
liberationeconomy.com, and
love it.
you'll go there. You'll see my calendar there.
I love it. Yeah, gang. If you want to be liberating your finances in future, you guys have to book a call with Chuck. He's amazing. Just click the link in the description below or scan the QR code to secure your place in this rising liberation economy. I absolutely love it. You're the best, Chuck. Thanks so much. Let's have you back again real soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.